We talk about lawfare as kind of politics at its worst. I think actually you can take a step further. Disaster relief, playing politics with disaster relief with Americans is the worst of the worst. And we now know that this FEMA issue about the Donald Trump, Vance, MAGA yard signs, I had 2 in my yard. But now we know in Georgia, they told their team, basically someone got ahead of it.
2 states, by the way, now we know Florida and Georgia, that both are conservative leaning.
Where the majority of the homes you're knocking on could have been actually Republican homes.
Yeah.
But they were what they were told though is, hey, before FEMA gets here, this was by a contractor that told them, a little tip off, before they get here, get those signs down because they won't knock on your door if they know you're a Trump supporter. Okay, so how did that contractor in Georgia who called during a hearing yesterday, which is why talking about like this on the broadcast, talking about it at the hearing is so important, because I just want to understand and just kind of remember the government will always try to say, Logan, it's like the radical traditionalist Catholics, the RTCs, that nothing happened there. And then we find out that there's actually FBI undercover agents at the Catholic Church. Here they said it was a one-off. The FEMA administrator has not yet been fired or resigned. You would think she would with her head down, but she may be facing more legal liability as this goes on, because we now know that this was something at least known to contractors, so not just federal government employees, but contractors as well in now 2 different states. And we want to know how many more people were affected. That's going to be tough to get out of FEMA. But if you start contacting us, if you were in that kind of a neighborhood or your friends were, give them a call and tell them to contact us at aclj.org/help, because this is the worst of politics. If politics enters disaster relief, it's not disaster relief anymore. It's relief for those the government deems to be decent people. But those unwanted, how many words, how many times have we demeaned Nazis, fascist, the clinging to your Bibles and guns?
What's always interesting is when we open up something like this, that more people do come out of the woodwork and we start finding out that this is a widespread issue. This has happened pretty much with every sort of topic that we bring up here at the ACLJ that we're able to address, which is we open the door and say, hey, if you had this happen to you, reach out to us. And, we expect maybe some people to respond. Maybe they have some half facts. They're not sure exactly. Maybe that's why. But then a lot of the times, it develops very quickly that this becomes a widespread issue, well, even beyond what we expected, well beyond maybe Georgia and Florida. Maybe there's more happening. Maybe there's documents that can be more uncovered, because we know that we've seen that, obviously, with this whistleblower and with what happened in Florida, where we saw the list of places that you should go and not go and what you should be looking for and not looking for. And it's a sad time because of this. As you said, politics should not be associated with this. And we have a bite that you should listen to. This is from Representative James Comer from Kentucky. Just give you a good understanding of what's happening.
During the recess for votes, my staff made contact with a new whistleblower who provided a credible account that a FEMA contractor visited the home of an elderly disabled veteran's family around October 10th following Hurricane Helene. While there, the FEMA contractor recommended that the family remove Trump campaign materials and signs from both their house and their yard. He warned the family that his FEMA supervisors do not take kindly to Trump supporters and that they seem as domestic terrorists. The elderly homeowners were so frightened by this and afraid that they would not recover their loss that they removed all Trump materials and signs. Nevertheless, FEMA has not returned to their residence. This took place not in Florida, but in Georgia. Administrator, we're happy to provide you with more information on this, but we and the American people want to know what FEMA is doing to ensure that political discrimination is not dictating how the American people are receiving aid following a disaster.
Listen, Donald Trump is going to get into the White House. This will be a top issue, but we always tell you these 60-ish days in between is when things get really bad. It's when they also try to push the bad stuff under the rug. Phones start disappearing. Data starts being destroyed.
Billions of dollars get spent.
IRS, they smash the computers and they clean them out completely, and now they can't locate the cell phones anymore. All of that. So we've got to get into court with the FOIA and things like that to almost preserve. But if 1 or 2 of you even just called today and know or believe this happened to you, we can preserve a lot more information right now. even more potentially than Congress because we can get into court quickly. Now, you need to contact us at aclj.org/help because I feel for this one administrator who got fired, they tried to make her the scapegoat like they tried to make the Cincinnati field office the scapegoat for Lois Lerner and her team in Washington. And she said, look, I'm not even someone who voted for Harris. I was just carrying out the task. Someone told me to do this, and I did what I was told to do as a on-the-ground, a field worker in this disaster situation. And I got the list, had a bunch of other things on it, and I gave it to the staff. I didn't make it. I didn't write it. So we need her to point to others now that she's lost her job, and maybe that's inappropriate that she did. I also want to know why no one spoke up. It seems like, are the FEMA employees that nervous about speaking up that this seems like something very dangerous we're about to say or about to put together as a policy, which looks like we may be picking and choosing who lives and who dies. And that again, could be a crime equal to some level of murder because it would be intentional because the intentional act is you're telling people do not approach those houses. So, I mean, it's premeditated in a sense. You know, if you don't approach those houses, there may be people there who are dying or who, if they don't get the electricity or something like that, they will die. And that's why I think this is the worst of the worst we've heard. And Logan, like you said, I really only believe it's the tip of the iceberg.
For sure.
I mean, it's to me, and I think is there more to play on this too? Because I do want to get to that the FEMA administrator, what she blames on this. It's truly despicable.
Our workforce persevered through all of the challenges I've just described, and they also persevered through a difficult security environment generated by misinformation about FEMA's work spread through social media. We help all survivors, all people, obtain all of the assistance that they are qualified for under the law, and misinformation was making that work much more difficult.
Misinformation. It was very difficult because the right wing and the social media, but the misinformation, I don't even know what she's talking about. We have proof. They fired the regional person that was helping out there because it was real. Logan, that's not misinformation. That's not disinformation.
No,
that wasn't
was
a conspiracy theory. You know what's worse now is we've got it in another state. Are they going to say, oh, well, that's also that's conspiracy theory? And at this point, it's fair to say now that if it happened in one part of Georgia, it happened in other parts of Georgia and likely happened in other states wherever there was at least someone who, at some level who had a regional ability to put this kind of checklist together to give out to the teams who are going to go door to door. And it may be regional. It may be that they have a few states. It may be national. It could go all the way to the top. Washington, D.C. usually is involved in these types of efforts, especially when politics is in play. So I just believe, one, we can do a lot of work on this. We'll do we're getting the FOIA, and I would love to assist you if you feel like you were skipped over because of the political sign in your yard, knowing that your neighbors were not.